Hey guys, here are 5 quick tips for your virtual hearing. Hi, I'm Alicia Kinchlow, a family law attorney based out of Philadelphia area and the owner of Kinchlow Law. Now, the majority of our hearings in the area are happening virtually due to COVID-19 restrictions. So I thought it'd be helpful if I give you guys a quick couple of tips to kind of help things be a success for you. All right, so the first tip is to make sure you read your entire notice carefully. Now, oftentimes the notice of the hearing will say whether or not it's in person or it's in a virtual courtroom. You should not assume that just because the majority of our court appearances are happening virtually, that your court case is indeed virtual. I am still having some in-person hearings. So again, just because majority of cases are happening virtually, don't assume that yours will be. So make sure you read that carefully. All right, step 2. Usually when you get that notice to appear, there's additional sheets that are going to explain generally what type of software you're going to be using and information about submitting evidence. You want to read that carefully, okay? Make sure you understand exactly what it is that the judge is asking of you or the court staff is asking of you in order to be able to present your case. There are some deadlines for the submission of evidence. In certain levels of a case, you may be required to email your evidence, fax or mail your evidence to make sure that it gets there in time, and there's a specific email address that you have to send it to. In other situations, the judge may want you to upload it to a folder that's called SharePoint. So some judges are having you upload your evidence to that folder, and then once you are ready to present your case during your virtual hearing, the judge can go to that folder and open it up. And each party will generally share their evidence to their individual, the plaintiff and defendant's SharePoint folders, and then access can be given to the other party to see what's in those folders once the court staff gives it to them. So you want to make sure you understand exactly how your judge wants evidence to be submitted. Now, the court staff will oftentimes go into the SharePoint folder and print out that evidence for the judge. The judge is not looking at it before the hearing, and they'll print it out for the judge just so that when you do present, the judge can look at it, because sometimes it's very hard to see on the screen. And a pro tip here is to, if you're looking at it, you want to have those things in front of you. So you kind of want to mark them and then have them in front of you so it's easy for you to see. Don't just rely on them being on your screen either. Okay? All right. So those are our first 2 tips. Read the notice and then actually look at the instructions for how to submit evidence thereafter. The third thing you should do is download the software. And I tell people and test the link. So you're going to download the software. If it's RingCentral, if it's Zoom, make sure you kind of familiarize yourself with it. See if you can set up an independent meeting with somebody else in your family or if with your lawyer, just so you can test it. Make sure your microphone works. Make sure your camera works. And just to get used to it. When you kind of can spend some time kind of getting some of the bugs out of it, some of the things that especially if you're not technologically savvy, but even if you are, just get a little bit of practice with it. It'll make things on the day of your court hearing run a lot smoother if it's not the first time you're trying to understand how it works. So spend some time doing that. Test out the link that you get from the court. When you, usually a few days before your court hearing, maybe a week or 2, you're going to get a link to be able to log into the meeting. So you can test that link and make sure that you actually get to the waiting room screen that says you have to wait for the host to come in. And generally, if you get there, you're probably majority of the way okay. So again, read your notice, use the second page or the extra pages that are coming with it that explain how your evidence is supposed to be submitted and what you're supposed to do. And third, test out the software and the link. All right, number 4. This is one of the most important ones, is to remember that virtual court is still court. So you want to show up like you would show up in court. You want to look professional. You want to be making sure that you're handling yourself in a professional manner. You know, I've seen sometimes people are drinking coffee during this. You know, this is not a Zoom hangout. This is not even, you know, hanging out or doing a virtual meeting with your job. This is a courtroom still. The judges are often sitting on their benches and they're in their robes. You need to handle yourself accordingly. It's very serious. And we're talking, again, in custody, we're talking about your children. So you want to make sure that you present yourself well. And not just thinking about yourself, but thinking about your surroundings. Okay? So you don't have to go and spend money and redecorate or none of those things. But you want to make sure that you're thinking about where your camera is facing and what the court is going to be able to see in the background. So think about that too. Make sure that you're in a quiet space, that you can, if there are children who are a party or just other people in general are around, you want to make sure that you can close the door so there's privacy. You absolutely cannot record the proceedings, so that's something else you should know about as well. And usually a judge is going to remind you of that you're going to say that you're not recording anything. But just be mindful of it. You're in court. You can't get up and move around. You can't demonstrate. Those are not things that the judges would generally allow you to do in court. So you should not be doing them on virtual court. Okay? Now, the last tip is going to be to take your time. I speak really quickly, and you guys, if you listen to my videos, you know that by now. But when we're in court, right, we take a breath and we think and we pause and we answer. And we do this for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is because you need to hear the full question. You need to know exactly what is being asked of you. 2, you should think about your answer. Okay? So take a minute, think about it. And when you're taking a pause too, it helps to kind of take out some of the emotion and some of your answers. So you want to think about that. And 3, because of technical delays, you may not hear the full question. So you want to make sure that, there isn't a delay and you hear everything. So just kind of pause and make sure you're listening. And then 4th, there may be an objection. So you want to wait and hear what's going on. So if there's an objection, you have to wait and see what the judge's ruling is. Sometimes, again, it's kind of hard when everybody kind of is speaking. There's several screens up and you want to get your answer out or you want to ask your question. But just take a beat and make sure you're listening, you're breathing, thinking, and answering, because that gives you an opportunity to make sure you're hearing everything and you're answering the right questions. All right, so those are our 5 tips to try to make your virtual court appearance go smoothly. Again, you always want to speak to an attorney licensed in your area about the facts specific to your case. These videos are for educational purposes only and are tips. I hope you found that today's episode helpful. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode. If there are things that you want to have me talk about on these videos, please leave them in the comments. I read all the comments, and I just want to remind you guys that these videos are here for you. So leave me any questions you have and let me know what topics you'd like me to cover. All right, until next time, take care.